Images can be powerful, evocative, meaning-making, memory-making. This is such an image. It's an image created from the experiences, dreams, visions, and life of Professor Nicole Bowman, who did, in a special issue of the Journal of Multidisciplinary Evaluation on Decolonizing Evaluation, included this image. In the opening chapter of that volume, with her co-editor and colleague, Professor Bagali Chalisa from the University of Botswana, Professor Bowman discusses what the image means and why it's important as they illuminate the why and how of the decolonization discourse. The rise of Indigenous evaluation and Indigenous philosophies and frameworks can generate tensions within academia as they work to unsettle the academy and reclaim their voice, place, and space as traditional knowledge holders and the original caretakers of these lands and context of practice. This image represents those tensions and the healing and transformative kinship Indigenous peoples bring to evaluation. I discussed this image with Professor Bowman at the end of an hour and 15-minute video about the Journal of Multidisciplinary Evaluation on Decolonizing Evaluation. But most people didn't get that far in that lengthy YouTube video, so I've pulled out my conversation and interview with Nikki to feature as a standalone piece, and that's what this video is. I invited Nikki to explain the meaning of this graphic, how it came about, and its relevance to decolonization. This takes some time well spent in our short attention spans and busy lives. I invite you to take 15 minutes to fully engage with and experience these Indigenous tensions in the academy as represented in this image and in the reflections about this image by one of the global leaders in Indigenous evaluation, Nikki Bowman.
And this picture, the origin story of this picture actually was years, I can't tell you how many years, more than 5, but less than 10 in the making. I'm trying to use visuals more to communicate because we privilege the written word, the published word so very much. And then I got to work with a great Indigenous artist. She's actually a teacher at Oneida Tribal School, Wia Caliph, and is an award-winning artist. She makes beautiful regalia as well as does digital art. So there were lots of iterations of this, but she so graciously took my picture and we talked story around this. And this was something that came to me actually always a feeling, energy, a feeling. And then I started dreaming about things and sketched it. And basically it's meant to be, I like to hear what people think about it and what's coming up for them, because that's their story and that's very elder-esque, if you will. The elders never tell you directly what something means. They want you to sort of have internal and experiential knowledge about it and be able to speak to it. So I can tell you when it was made and how it feels to me is that it's meant to be jarring as well as rooted or peaceful in there. And that's why you see some brown hands and you see some white hands. And I hope that as this image grows and changes, that there are going to be some friendly white hands on there. But I really feel like being a daughter of Kukuna Aki, Mother Earth, and Kishoch is the son, grandfather's son, and Nipahum is grandmother Moon, had a baby named Mother Earth, and I'm a child of Mother Earth. And so that's why you see the braids that remind me I have I have roots to these grounding medicines of the earth, and I have connections and I'm tethered to the sky world, where the ancestors live, where the future generations live. So those are supposed to be, that's a good tension, because it when I get overwhelmed, I can remember to go back there, and that's what I have to do. And I think I rest more the older I am. I can't get to these creative, metaphysical, spiritual places unless I'm going to sweat lodge or I'm resting more. So Fridays are the perfect day to visit. So I'm glad we're visiting today, because I can talk about things like this instead of the weariness of work, and APA and all of that hullabaloo. You will also see the hands, and if you look close, you can see the white hands, white saviors, white privilege, white supremacy. I know it's sort of hard to see some of these assimilation policies, cultural appropriation. There's just a lot of different things. Uh, if you aren't Indigenous, you should be using first voice. So if you're teaching culturally responsive evaluation and you are a white male or a white female, you are not first voice. You should be teaching that in tandem with a Indigenous person or a person of color, with permission from community. So that's a tension in and of itself. You'll see these hands, and some of the hair, the color is even coming out. Gray hair in our world means wisdom, wisdom walking. And so I'm hoping that how do we turn these challenges into something that I can learn from? That's sort of represented in the picture. I also feel, when I was talking about being a child of Mother Earth, colonization, settler colonialism, when they took the spirituality out of our plant relatives, our earth relatives, the winged, the swimming, the seen, the unseen, however you want to say it, that's when it became commodified. And I feel like a lot of times my body and my mind and my spirit are commodified, because they're like, let me pick your brain, Nikki. Like literally, that's what will be said. Or can you come in and just be in your regalia? Or can you come in and just do a prayer, instead of being somebody who is holding your hand and walking with you, or walking behind you to support you, sometimes walking in front of you to open doors where Indigenous people aren't, and they make space, try to make space so that we can reestablish ourselves as part of the original caretakers. And so that's sort of what the white hands and the hair are. Now the other pieces of hair you'll see are blue, and they're more grounding. There are 7 strands that go up to the sky for the 7 generations, and that is meant to remind me about what my job is today, so that the things I do today will live beyond me for the next 7 generations of evaluators, Indigenous and non-Indigenous. So I hope I'm affecting everyone, red, white, yellow, black, that's in our medicine wheel, in that sacred circle. The red hand over my mouth is obviously for missing, murdered Indigenous women, girls, and LGBTQ2 spirit. It also represents the invisibility in the academy, right? And the harm that's done by the academy, not just the modern day academy, but back in the day, and how treaty rights and land and lives were lost. So it represents more than just the modern, it represents the past as well, and honoring that past. And then, of course, the upside down United States flag bandana is to say, we didn't agree to this, but we were either killed or forced into this way of life, on these reservations, or into this way of thinking, or cutting our hair, or. And so that's sort of like, it's meant to be upside down and kind of twisted, because that's how colonization in the contemporary settler state makes me feel. And they also don't see us. They should be seeing us in policy. They should be seeing us constitutionally as sovereign nations, through our established treaty rights and some of the early agreements that we had, but these don't get honored. And so when the reason of tensions in the academy, if you know history, oral history before written books, pre-contact history, If you know culture and language and ceremonies, and I only know a thimbleful, I'm going tonight to another ceremony. I continue to try to learn. Then you understand, it gives it a context, right? And things repeat themselves. So the tensions in the academy are harmful, but it's not in vogue to, like, force somebody to go on the longest walk, or um to make people cut their hair and not speak their language, and but there's still tensions, because when you have boundaries and when you speak up, there are consequences to your actions, some that are seen, some that are unseen. And I guess I just knowing, with going back to those roots, those braids, and Witchiwinu Kanewuk, my spirit name, and the teachings therein of what my responsibilities are. I feel grateful that I have access to culture, language, oral knowledge, and I'm grounded by that. Those are my ethics. Those are the way that I live. That's my praxis. That's my theory. That's my everything. But I know that the tensions that we have now are not as physically harmful as it was earlier in history. And so it doesn't mean they're not there. They just sort of manifest in different ways. And that's why I say settler colonialism, or the settler state, from, for example, data sharing agreements, or having to sign away your rights if you want to publish, to not having voice and visibility on powerful committees as keynoters, or equitably resourced uh, budgets, in time to actually do evaluation, or create thoughtful pieces of literature. And so this is just one way. This is one expression of how I was feeling at the time, and sometimes how I still feel at the time, in terms of just like everybody wants a piece of you, inside, outside, your time. And you can say, I can't work to that level. I don't want to be part of the production line known as colonization or commodification of knowledge, and some people just won't respect that. And so I've just had to learn how to say no as a sentence with a period at the end. And as I keep going, I continue to learn more. So hopefully that explains a bit of it.
That's very, very powerful, Nikki. Talk about what she's wearing, the earrings and the clothes that she's wearing. There's some images there as well.
Yep. So she represents me. The earrings are the many trail symbol of the Mohican tribe. I am a traditional and citizen of the Stockbridge Munsee tribe, the Mohican Nation. Mohican.com in Shawano, Wisconsin, but we have several Lenape communities and nations throughout Turtle Island, North America. And so though we are the people where the waters are never still, so we always live near moving water. Out east in our ancestral homelands in New York and New Jersey area, and up in what is now Ontario. And then when the Nina Pinta and Santa Maria hit the side of Turtle Island, we kind of scattered. So we have people out east and still in Ontario. We have home here in Wisconsin where I am, and then down in Oklahoma. So that's what, we have. We try very hard to get together. Social media helps us stay together, and Zoom, of course. But that's those are for our tribe, the Stockbridge Munsee tribe in Bowler, Wisconsin. Those earrings are the many trails symbol. And those there's more about the many trail symbol on the Mohican.com website. And then the garb that you see, well, underneath the light blue is it just shows traditional woodland floral patterns from I would say Anishinaabe, or the woodlands Indians, if you will. You see a lot of those floral patterns with vines and stuff on. Probably a little bit more Ojibwe inspired, Anishinaabe inspired. And then on the necklace, those are sorry, it's the bib. It's not a bib. I'm trying to think what it's called across the top. I can't think of it right now, but it is more regalia that you wear, and it has shells on it. It has dendulum, the skinny ones, and then bigger shells. And shells are important to a lot of our ceremonies, a lot of our regalia. Um, we have shells all over. We use them for smudging. We have them for earrings, and other jewelry that we wear. And so these are, that's just traditionally part of, what our regalia is. And shells, obviously, were on some of our first pieces of regalia. Though this is more contemporary because it's cloth. Now, if it was buckskin, is what we would be wearing back in the day.
Okay. And so what's powerful, partly to me, about this image in the context of the journal and decolonization is that you've got structural and policy issues like sovereign governments and treaty rights. You've got a number of cultural dimensions that you've been talking about, and the nature of indigenous knowledge, dancing, singing, and then you've got relationship dimensions that are here in tension, and you've got both the sense of the past and the sense of the future. Not everyone will be familiar with what the 7 generations mean. So why don't we close out by your talking about what the 7 generations represents?
So 7 generations represents, according to the teachings I've been given, is that whatever decisions we're making today, we should consider for the next future 7 generations. And that's why I talked about living beyond me. Hopefully that demonstrates respect, cultural and academic humility, and thinking about, because this field, being a consultant, maybe you're on a tenure track, these can be very sort of selfish or individualized endeavors. And so try to thinking more broadly to community, to rights of nature, all aspects of nature. And as we think about the 7th generation of those yet to be born, we are part of the Alongwa, the sort of sacred cycle, right? It's not a death, it's a change of worlds. And so as we come from the stars along where we go back to them, to that original breath Creator gave us. And so part of our instructions are remembering that we are intergenerational for time immemorial in kin with each other, human and non-human. And that during our ceremonies and things that we do, we can call in past generations or call out to future generations. So that's part of the 7 generation thinking, relational thinking, and kinship with each other in all things that were made by the Creator, Kishalamokwe. And we just really need to be mindful of the individual decisions that we make every day. We may not speak them, we may think them, but we come with a good mind, a good heart, a good spirit to the work that we do, to try to be good medicine, to be good relatives in this work that we're doing now, because whatever we do will impact our future 7 generations. And having an understanding of those past generations that we came from, and how do we carry forward that oral knowledge and that way of thinking and being and doing into our contemporary space. So it's backward and forward. It's kind of a circle. So hopefully that explains it a little bit better.
Thank you, Nikki, for sharing this powerful illustration